Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Joe Ellis. I'm a commercial wedding and portrait photographer in Dallas, Texas, and today we're talking about a little scouting trip I took with the Fuji GFX 100S and answering some of your questions in a Q&A. Let's get into it. Okay, so my intent today was to run out with my family on a Sunday afternoon because the weather is finally nice here in Texas and to do a little vlog. We were just going to go visit a bunch of places up in far north Dallas where I thought it'd be fun to kind of scout around and look for new locations with like a tulip farm that we had found on the internet as sort of an end location. And while we had a lot of fun running around today and we got to the tulip farm, it was really just massively crowded with people, so it really didn't work, unfortunately. But I do think it is really important to get out and find locations in your city that you can use that can be all your own, things that you find unique and interesting. Because, over the years, the popular spots in this city have just become really overrun with photographers on any given, weekend. You just see hundreds of photographers in the same spaces in Dallas shooting the same types of photos. So I try to spend a few days every year looking and searching out new and interesting locations that can become, the hot spots for years to come. So anyway, here's a few images and a little bit of behind the scenes from this afternoon.
I've been driving all night long to the place where I belong, back to where I started from, the only place that I call home. 17 around the bend, drinking with my old best friend, listening to the radio. I thought we'd stay until the end. It wasn't always right, but it wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. And when I see it now, I always feel so free. I guess this town's still a big part of me. That's the spot where I got caught, running from the cops. I thought they would have changed the name by now. The owner, someone else anyhow. That's where I saw Jenny first. Man, I think I almost burst. I heard that she's a doctor now. She got out of this place somehow. Oh, it wasn't always right, but it wasn't all that bad. This was all we had. When I see it now, I always feel so free. I guess this town's still a big part of me.
Okay, so now let's do a little bit of Q&A. I have about 5 questions here I've gotten from the YouTubes, questions over the GFX and about me and all that kind of good stuff, and some stuff I'd love to answer for you. So the first question I'm getting a lot, and this one is completely expected, is just about my Olympus OMD content and cameras and all that kind of good stuff. And like I said in a previous video, I still have all of my cameras and I still use them. They're primarily pulling a lot of duty right now shooting video. In point, over the pandemic, I really had to make some decisions on what to do because moving forward for my wedding and portrait business, we're doing a lot more photo and video at the same time. And you need around 5 or 6 cameras to kind of do that effectively. And I didn't own that many. So it kind of left me in a position as to whether or not I should invest more into Olympus or maybe move in a different direction. And so while I'm keeping all of my OMDs, I love my EM1Xs and they can do a great job shooting video, I chose to invest in a new system in the Fujifilm system. And I'm having a great time with this stuff. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not against making OMD content if it comes up. I'm not unhappy to answer questions about it moving forward. But, you know, we all had to kind of decide what we were going to do. And I do think the future of the Olympus brand and the OMD and all of that is a little bit uncertain. I do think they are absolutely killing it right now in sort of the wildlife, birds and wildlife segment. I think some of their new lenses just look absolutely outstanding for that kind of work. But for weddings and portraits, it's always been a bit of a slow go with Olympus cameras. There's not a huge community of people over there doing that kind of work with those cameras. I am finding a lot of new friends in the Fujifilm world, and I'm really excited about that. So as we move forward, please stay with me on the journey. I will definitely share all the ins and outs of it. And like I said, if you have ideas or questions about OMD stuff, I'm more than happy to help. Okay. Can the GFX handle weddings and portraits and toddlers and all that kind of stuff? This was a great question because it's 100% in my wheelhouse. You know, this is what I shoot day in and day out. And I would say after testing this camera now for a few days, and like I said, it's only been like 4 or 5 days since I've had it, I would say at this point 100% yes. I haven't found anything about the camera that would suggest that it couldn't keep up with that kind of work. Primarily two things. It's really fast to acquire focus, and it's really quick to shoot like between shots. You can get through things really fast. Those two things, being able to catch fleeting expressions and being able to focus quickly, is probably the thing that makes shooting families that much easier. And for weddings, like I said, I'm going to use it primarily for portraits, some of the very large groups, for example, family portraits, that kind of thing. That's where I see the GFX 100S really coming into its own. It just gives me that much more flexibility in cropping, that much more color information, that much more resolution for doing different things after the fact. So that's the kind of how I see the GFX 100S fitting into my wedding and portrait and family photography business. Okay, how's the battery life on the 100S? This has definitely been a hot topic and something that I've been really growing into here, learning. I would say for a full day shoot that primarily, I think I'll carry probably 4 to 5 batteries for an all-day shoot is kind of what I'm expecting. So I think that's kind of on par with a lot of mirrorless cameras, and I think that's not unexpected because obviously we're pushing around a lot of data, a lot of pixels. The EVF is high resolution. There's an image stabilizer. So all in all, I think the camera's doing a great job with power. It's just you're going to need a few extras to get through a long day. Okay, what is the image quality like coming from Micro Four Thirds and APS-C? I would say, in a word, it's kind of breathtaking. Now, of course, I've been shooting with the Phase 1 camera for a long time, but in working with these Fuji files, I think it takes it up another level in terms of resolution, another level in terms of fidelity of color and the way you can push and process the files, because there's that much less noise in these pictures. If you need to bring up shadows or bring down highlights, that has just been utterly outstanding on this camera. And then to boot, you can really push the ISO in a GFX camera to those insanely high numbers and still have really, really workable files. Now, I would routinely push my images up to 6400 for even a Micro Four Thirds file, but that is like a cakewalk for a 100S. You can go up 2+ more stops and still get usable images. And I'm not a person who's afraid of grain in my photos, of course, but these are like really clean for those kinds of ISOs. So that's been very new to me, especially in comparison to the Phase 1. What lens do I recommend as a first lens for the GFX system? I would say I'm maybe not the perfect person to answer this question because I haven't been using the system for all that long. But when I went through this process, there were sort of 2 different options that I looked at. The first one is the 45 to 100, which is sort of your 35 to 80-ish kind of zoom. And I think that that could definitely be a one lens solution for a lot of people. But for me, it was the 32 to 64 and the 110 millimeter f2 that really made the most sense. I really wanted that kind of a little bit more wide angle on the 32 side, and I really wanted that shallow depth of field provided by the 110 f2. If you're going to go up to this size sensor and really, make it sing, those 2 lenses seem to me to be a really great combo for the kind of work that I do. So if you do weddings, events, portraits, I think that's a great lens combination to work with, and it's the one that I'm going to be using all the time moving forward. So that's what I have today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I would really love to get more conversation going about the GFX system in the comments. So if you pick this up, or if you do this work, the same kind of work that I do with a GFX camera, I would love to get to know you. So please say hi, ask any questions that you've got, and we'll be moving forward together. Thanks, and I appreciate it. Have a good night.